Welcome back, friends. This is my June book haul. I can't freaking believe it's June, the end of June. So somehow I did it again. I have like a shitload of books to haul, and there are still some that I've ordered that I'm waiting on. I have 15 freaking books to talk about today. Somebody stop me. This is getting out of hand. It is kind of ridiculous, the amount of books that I've been hauling each month. And unfortunately, my reading is gonna slow down starting the end of June because my editing certificate program has begun. And so that's gonna take up some of my daytime hours where I was reading quite a bit. So without further ado, I'm not gonna ramble. Let's just get into it. So recently, I did a video called The Creepiest Horror Books That I've Ever Read, or something to that effect. And in that video, in the comments, many of you took the time to recommend so many great horror reads that I just had to buy some. And also, I started a book club on Fable. I will link that in the description box down below, where I plan on reading one of these books each month. The first one I will talk about in a few minutes. But if you're interested in that video, I can link that for you here. The first one is one of those books, and it is called The Reckoning by Jeff Long. I bought this used from Amazon, and let's see what it says. Armed with a camera and iron determination, 30-year-old photojournalist Molly Drake arrives in modern-day Cambodia to cover the U.S. military search for the remains of an American pilot shot down during the Vietnam War. In this eerie wasteland, pockmarked with human bones and live landmines, the people hold more secrets than the landscape. From aging archaeologist Duncan O'Brien to John Cleat, a caustic vet hunting for his long-lost brother. When Molly's camera captures a flight helmet buried among the Khmer Rouge victims, diplomatic powers force her and her civilian comrades off the dig. Suspenseful, a thriller that illuminates the fragile thread between life and death, knowledge and ignorance, hope and horror. Bringing readers ever closer to enemy territory, it is a hair-raising journey in one of modern history's darkest periods and an intense look into the hearts still haunted by it. The Reckoning. The next was a Barnes & Noble pre-order sale book. And it's actually really tiny, which I didn't realize when I bought it, but it's Craft Stories I Wrote for the Devil by Ananda Lima. So it is a short story collection. It says that she lures readers into surreal pockets of the US and Brazil, where they'll find bite-sized Americans in vending machines and the ghosts of people who are not dead. Once there, she speaks to modern Brazilian-American immigrant experiences of ambition, fear, longing, and belonging, and reveals the porousness of storytelling and of the places we call home. It just sounded interesting to me. Next, I have another one. Oh, and I will also mention that I recently filmed a book shopping with me online where I bought several of these horror books recommended to me. And if you're interested in that, I will link that as well. But this is The Descent by Jeff Long, another Jeff Long book, which I didn't realize until right now. But this one seemed particularly disturbing to me when I picked it up. It says that in Tibet, while guiding trekkers to a holy mountain, Ike Crockett discovers a bottomless cave. When his lover disappears, Ike pursues her into the depths of the earth. In a leper colony bordering the Kalahari Desert, a nun and linguist named Ali von Shade unearths evidence of a proto-human species and a deity called Older Than Old. In Bosnia, Major Elias Branch crash lands his gunship near a mass grave and is swarmed by pale cannibals, terrified of light. So begins mankind's realization that the underworld is a vast geological labyrinth riddling the continents and seabeds, one inhabited by brutish creatures who resemble the devils and gargoyles of legend, with all of hell's precious resources and territories to be won. A global race ensues. Nations, armies, religions, and industries rush to colonize and exploit the subterranean frontier. I mean, this talks a lot about Satan's existence, dead and undead. I don't know, this one just really appealed to me, and it sounded very interesting. This looks like, I don't know, let me see when this was published. 1999, so almost, like 25 years ago. The Descent. The next is another one. I don't know if this book in particular was recommended. This was one that an author that I have read from before, and the book that I read was a thriller. It was called Come With Me, and I thought that it was very good, very well done. And so I wanted to read another one of his that was maybe a little bit more on the horror side. And this is a Bram Stoker Award finalist. It is called Small Town Horror by Ronald Malfi. So this one is about A lawyer rising up through the ranks with a heavily pregnant wife, settling into new life far from Kingsport, the town in which he grew up. But when he receives a late night phone call from an old friend, he has no choice but to return home. Coming home means returning to his late father's house, which has seen better days. It means lying to his wife, but it also means reuniting with his friends. Together, the five friends will have to confront the memories and the horror of a night years ago that changed everything for them, because they have a secret, a thing that they have kept to themselves for 20 years. Something no one else should know, but the past is not dead, and Kingsport is a town with secrets of its own. So that sounds good. Small town horror, group of friends. It actually kind of reminds me of like Summer of Night by Dan Simmons or It by Stephen King. I don't know, I haven't read it yet, but that's the vibes that I'm getting. I'm excited for that. This next one is the book that I have chosen for the very first book for the book club, if you're interested. And then after that, going forward, I will put up a poll and I guess we can decide together what we want to read. But this is Song of Callie by Dan Simmons. I'm a huge Dan Simmons fan. This man can write in any and all genres, and he does it well in every single one. I've heard that this one is terrifying. I really don't know a lot about it. It was written in 1985, so let's just take a minute to appreciate that. Some places are too evil to be allowed to exist. Some cities are too wicked to be suffered. Calcutta is such a place. Before Calcutta, I would have laughed at such an idea. Before Calcutta, I did not believe in evil, certainly not as a force separate from the actions of men. Before Calcutta, I was a fool. Some places are too evil to be allowed to exist. Yes, please. I am so excited to get to this. It's short. It's only 300 pages or so. You guys need to get yourself a copy of this book and freaking read it with me, okay? I'm not like, I don't like being scared alone. Okay, the next one is another one that I bought that was recommended to me by a subscriber, and that is The Other Side by Alfred Cuban. This says, and I don't really know much about it, so let's just take a look together, shall we? This is also translated work. And it doesn't really give any synopsis. It just basically goes to chapter 1. It does say there are some blurbs on the back. It is a depiction of absurd bureaucracy. It's strongly reminiscent of Kafka's The Trial, and his flawed utopia, situated next to a settlement of supposed savages, brings to mind Huxley's Brave New World. It precedes both novels, and the superb new translation could demonstrate its influence on subsequent modern literature. Here for it. This next book was a Broken Binding subscription box, and it is the third, I believe, in the Lies of Locke Lamora series. I think this is probably my favorite one out of the three. I just love this cover. I think it is so pretty. Sorry. Trying to get it off my face. Anyway, I've not read this series, but I've heard really great things about it. And so I do think that I will try to get to it sometime soon, since now I have these beautiful editions. Next I have Welcome to the Monkey House by Kurt Vonnegut. Actually heard John over at Talking Story refer this, I believe it was to Jimmy Nuts, saying that this was his favorite by Kurt Vonnegut. I have not read it yet, and so I just grabbed a copy. Love the cover. Green is my favorite. So this is a collection of his shorter works. I need to read more short stories, and I've heard that this is really, really good and a great place to kind of start if you haven't read from him. This next one, I'm trying to remember. Next I have Archipelago. You guys, I can read, I just can't speak. This is by H.R. Hawkins. This is a sci-fi. It says, a half a century, the archipelago has been silent, alone, out on the galaxy's rim, an eccentric cluster of planets set out to forge a new society. Far from meddling interference of the great interplanetary leagues, over decades of isolation, the archipelago becomes a mostly forgotten legend. But then out of the blue, they send a message. The leagues are invited to visit. But why? Why now? Ren Markov is a veteran diplomat for the idealistic core planets, where he acts as an agent of subversion, toppling governments and spoiling revolutions. Dispatched on a mission into the Ark, Ren discovers stunning worlds and a radical, ecologically obsessed society that is both compelling and disturbing. But he faces a terrible decision. Should he protect this strange new society, or should he fear it and allow it to be crushed? Machiavellian plot twists swirl as leagues struggle for influence and control. It takes readers on a journey through interstellar politics, revolution, and the diverging ethics of a vast diaspora. Ren is in search of his very identity as he chooses between salvation and annihilation. Sounds great. If you know me, you know that I love science fiction. At this point, I believe it has taken over my love for fantasy. I don't know, there's just something about it that I adore. Next, we have People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. So I've heard so many great things about Emily Henry, and I have not yet read one of her books. So I am attempting to remedy this by buying this book. I'm sure that you all know what it is about, but I don't know, maybe not, because I'm a sci-fi fantasy channel for the most part, horror, so maybe you don't. It says that Alex and Poppy, they have nothing in common. She's a wild child, he wears khakis. Okay, we don't need to know all that. Every summer for a decade, they have taken one glorious week of vacation together until 2 years ago when they ruined everything. They haven't spoken since. Two best friends, 10 summer trips, one last chance to fall in love. Sounds good. I don't know. I think the actually funny story is the one that I've heard the most about lately, saying that that is like her best one yet. And so I don't know, I guess we'll find out. Okay, this is another book that I learned about from John over at Talking Story. Him and his lovely wife did a special episode for City of Thieves by David Benioff, and it just sounded so intriguing to me that I had to grab a copy. And it's short. It's very short. I didn't realize how short it is. It's only like 250-ish pages, but it is about, it says, during the Nazis' brutal siege of Leningrad, Lev Benioff is arrested for looting and thrown into the same cell as a handsome deserter named Kolya. Instead of being executed, Lev and Kolya are given a shot at saving their own lives by complying with an outrageous directive. Secure a dozen eggs for a powerful Soviet colonel to use in his daughter's wedding cake. In a city cut off from all supplies and suffering unbelievable deprivation, Lev and Kolya embark on a hunt through the dire lawlessness of Leningrad and beyond enemy lines to find the impossible. I love stories set in Nazi Germany during World War II, even World War I. And so I'm sure that I will love this one. And John just raved about it and highly recommended it. So we're gonna give it a go. This next one was kind of a spur of the moment decision when I found out that this author had passed away. And that is The Moons of Jupiter by Alice Munro. This is a Nobel Prize winner. From what I understand, her writing is spectacular. And this is about, I think short stories. I think it is. Because it says, in these piercingly lovely and endless surprising stories by one of the most acclaimed current practitioners of the art of fiction, many things happen. There are betrayals and reconciliations, love affairs consummated and mourned. But the true events in Moons of Jupiter are the ways in which the characters are transformed over time, coming to view their past selves with an anger, regret, and infinite compassion that communicate themselves to us with electrifying force. Who knew? Another short story collection, all in one haul. Oh, this next one is a book that I had not really had very much inclination to read until I watched Ashlyn read this book off her husband's TBR, and she just loved it so much and raved about it that I just had to pick it up. And that is Billy Summers by Stephen King. And I really don't know much about this. Let's see. Chances are, if you're a target of Billy Summers, two immutable truths apply. You'll never know what hit you, and you're really getting what you deserve. He's a killer for hire and the best in the business, but he'll do the job only if the assignment is a truly bad person. But now time is catching up with him, and Billy wants out. Before he can do that, though, there's one last hit, which promises a generous payday at the end of the line, even as things don't seem quite on the level here. Given that Billy is among the most talented snipers in the world, a decorated Iraq war veteran, and a virtual Houdini when it comes to vanishing after the job is done, what could possibly go wrong? How about everything? Part war story and part love letter to small town America and the people who live there, this spectacular thriller of luck, fate, and love will grip readers with its electrifying narrative as a complex anti-hero, and with one last shot at redemption, must avenge the crimes of an extraordinarily evil man. You won't ever forget the stunning novel from master storyteller Stephen King, and you will never forget Billy. I mean, I think this cover is really pretty, actually. Anyway, this sounds so good. I think that King does characters like no one else. He has such a great knack for delivering the human psyche and the human experience on the page. He really provides these fully fleshed out, just amazing characters, and I always love his character-driven stories. I mean, I think he does horror really well because he uses things that are so relatable and so human, turning them into these nightmare horror experiences. Absolutely. But I also love books like 11/22/63, where he really focuses more on the characters and their stories and their narratives. And that kind of sounds like what we're gonna get in this. I don't know. We'll see. I have two more, okay? Two more. The first one, I don't know why, but I feel like I already talked about this one. I guess if I did, I can cut this out. Anyway, is Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. This is her new release. I read Cleopatra and Frankenstein last year and I loved it. It is literary fiction. It is usually about characters dealing with traumatic events and emotions. There's usually trigger warnings. Usually. There was in the last book. And that's what this one sounds like. It sounds like there are 3 sisters who are dealing with the aftermath of another sister's death. That's really all I know about this. I know that I loved her writing in the first book, and so I'm hoping that this one is the same and just as good. So a year later, the 3 of them reunite in New York to stop the sale of their childhood home. They find that only by returning to each other can they navigate their grief, addiction, and heartbreak and learn to fall in love with life again. And the last one is actually book 2. I didn't realize that this was still in here. It must have came, at the beginning of the month. Anyway, this is book 2 in the Lives of Locke and Mora series from the Broken Binding. It is Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch. Of course, this edition is pretty too. I just think that the other edition, book 3, the cover is just beautiful. Whereas this one is, it's nice, but it's just not as beautiful as the other one. So that's it. That's gonna wrap it up. Those are all of the books that I hauled in June. Man, I'm out of breath. Let me know if you have read any of these books or if you were interested in my horror book club. What did you haul this month? I would love to hear what you picked up and maybe get some inspiration from you. So drop me a comment down below, and thanks for watching, guys. I will see you next time. Bye!
Absurd bureaucracy. I cannot say that freaking word.